Many thanks for staying with us. Of course, this is still Politics HQ on New Central Television. Now, just before we went on that break, I did give you an introduction onto what we will be discussing on the first half of the program, which, of course, is the release, initial detention, and, of course, release of one of the hashtag and bad governance protesters who was charged with treason, Michael Adaramoye. He joins me right now in the studio to, of course, discuss this. Now, Michael Adaramoye is the National Coordinator of the Youth Rights Campaign. I also have Festus Ogun, is a human rights lawyer. Both men are in the studio with me this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you again, Michael. I remember that before the protest, you joined this program virtually.
Yes.
So it's good to have you, after all of what you've been through. Festus, too, it's good to have you, as always.
Thank you very much for
let me start with you, Michael. Looking at what you've been through in the past months, how do you feel right now? What's going on through your mind?
Well, I've been released for over a month now, so, but of course, the feeling is still the same before I was arrested and even during the period of my ordeal. And it's the need for us to make our input to make society better, which is a priority for many of us who are in the line of activism. So there's no really strange feeling about it. Of course, it was a very difficult period for me personally, but this is a line of activism. You expect such things, and we live in a society where the whole idea of democracy has been rubbished. And of course, you can look at what's happening presently in the country. So that when we talk about democracy, something really that is almost absent, or we just pretend to exist in a democratic structure. But the feeling, like I said, of course, I'm grateful for Nigerians who made the effort to facilitate my release, who clamor for my release. So I'm very grateful for Nigerians for the great role everyone played in ensuring that tyranny does not win over the truth. So it's a feeling of gratitude for Nigerians, and of course, to also tell everyone that we need to continue our effort to make society a better one.
Okay, I'm still going to come back to you because I would also like you to, in a way, detail what you went through. But let me bring in, of course, Festus into this conversation, Barrister Festus. Now, looking at human rights abuse and the issue of protest right now, where it looks like the line between being an enemy of the state, or a troublemaker, and a protester, that line seems to be thinning out, such that people are beginning to ask, does it mean that I just have to stay silent now, even when I'm suffering? I would like you to, from the standpoint of the law, when does a protester become a troublemaker?
Before you go to law, it is very important to give this background. When Lenin and the rest of them were charged to court after the protest in August, I wrote a letter to the Attorney General of the Federation requesting that he should exercise his power under the Constitution to discontinue that charge against the defendants. Why? Because we are operating a democracy where protest is a fundamental right. So if by dint of Section 39, 40, and 41 of the Constitution, citizens are entitled to express dissatisfaction with government, they are entitled to protest, why should you charge them to court? So even merely charging protesters to court for exercising their human rights is an abuse of that judicial process. I do not believe that state resources should be expended to persecute those that are asking for a better country. These protesters are simply saying, look, we want a better country. Put an end to bad governance. In place of addressing the concerns of the protesters, what the Tinubu-led administration did was to charge the protesters to court. It is so ironic that this same government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in some over 20 years ago, were the one leading pro-democracy movement Even during military regime, there were protests led by those people in government today. Now, in a supposed democracy, they are asking our people not to protest. When you protest, they charge you to court for treason. What is more treasonous, if not those that are holding the destiny of our country to ransom, but those young people who are simply demanding that you cannot continue to mortgage our future, you should put an end to mortgaging our future, you charge them to court. What the government is doing is to create an atmosphere of fear. They want to create a tyrannical regime where people, citizens of this country, will not be courageous enough to demand an end to the shenanigans of government, because they want citizens to know that anytime you speak up, you'll be charged to court and you'll be taken to prison, and you will spend months like my comrade here. So what they are doing is a deliberate attempt to shrink the civic space and to ensure that our citizens are no longer vocal enough to demand for a better country. But let me tell you the truth.
Okay.
We have to place it on record. They have failed. There is no regime in the history of mankind that can defeat the will of a united people. Our people are very resolute. They should charge hundreds of us to court. We will continue to demand a better country. Is it not even funny, Dapo? Dapo, is it not funny that I read this evening before I came to this studio that in Ekiti State, the commissioner of police said he has banned protest, that there is no protest that is tolerable in the state. And I wonder, when the provision of section 39, 40, and 41 of the Constitution
when you look
says you have the right to protest, what could be the legal justification for the CP of Ekiti State to say people cannot protest? We have to either accept that we are in a democracy and we should be allowed to participate in democratic mediums, or we should just take it that we are just running a disguised democracy. But this is not how to run a democracy. To say citizens of a country should not complain is to take away their dignity of human person.
All right. I mean, you've said quite a number of things, but let me come back to you, Michael. I would like you to just briefly, detail your what you went through, your ordeal, while in incarceration, from maybe the time you were picked at home up to when those charges, because if I'm to go through some of those charges, for instance, you were charged for incitement of mutiny, charged for intimidation of the president, charged with treason, charged with trying to destabilize the country, amongst the plethora of charges. So, I mean, can you just tell us, what did you go through?
Well, of course, those charges you read, 6-count charges, just as you read now, involves treason, mutiny, and the government and some people feeling that citizens went to some military barracks, citizens without arms went to military barracks to attack a military barrack. And even while I was reading, why those charges were being read to me at the court, I was shocked. Because,
are you aware of these charges?
Prior to
were you involved in any?
Prior to the point I was arraigned in court, I was not aware of any of those things. So myself was clearly shocked that those charges could be levied against innocent citizens. Of course, and I was not the only one who was charged, and many of the persons who were charged with me are people who do not even have anything to do with protest. And it shows how terrible, how far the government can go in even trying to lump up different people. Many of them I've never even seen in my entire life, but the government said we conspire together. And it shows how... So
those that you were charged with, you've not seen many of them in your life?
I've never seen them in my life. In fact, the first time I saw many of them were at the police detention facility a day before we were taken to court, when all of us were caught together. In fact, I did not even know many of them were my casemates until the police themselves introduced them to me.
So the police introduced your fellow
the one who introduced the persons they claimed I conspired with to destabilize the country with me. Many of them I've never seen. Many of them were picked up in Kano, Kaduna, and some other places. So that itself shows how terrible and the level of investigation work the police said they've done for a whole month. Which was the reason why they kept us for that long. They said they wanted to investigate. And after a whole month, they could not come up with anything.
So I'm sorry, I want to get this correctly. They kept you for a month. They arrested you first before investigating.
Of course. And which is one of the most shocking part, because the more you try to look at the whole scenario, the more you continue to appear shocked by the level of insanity we have in our society today. And the effrontery, even the police, and even the apologies of the government they've had in trying to clamp down voices of the people. Because if you look at the whole journey, for me personally, because many of us did nothing further than taking part in a peaceful protest. And all of the charges that were read, and even to today, we continue to ask them, can you even bring evidence or anything related to all of these things contained in our charges? None. They've not been able to bring anything. In fact, the first evidence I saw was a book they brought to court, and I was surprised that how can you bring books and say they are evidence of people you are charging for treason? In fact,
they brought books to court as part of evidence.
They brought book. Even at the police facility, there was a time they brought lots of books and say, wow, these are books we use as evidence against them. We need to do
Sorry, do you have any idea of the title of these books?
Of course, these are normal books people read. Some of those books I've not even seen them before.
Okay.
But some I've seen before. I mean, but it shows how terrible our society has turned into. That people can start bringing out books, not weapons, not guns, not firearms, to say they want to use as evidence to tender in court on charges related to treason, to mutiny, attack on military facilities. So it shows how terrible it is. But to answer your question, the journeys for me, of course, was...
I think we'll pick up on that because we need to pay some bills. Once we return, we'll definitely hear more from Michael. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This is still Politics HQ on News Central Television. I still have with me in the studio Festus Ogun, is a legal practitioner, and also Michael Adaramoye as the national coordinator of the youth rights movement, and also one of those that was arrested, detained, and now released, after the End Bad Governance protest. It's great to, still have you in the studio, gentlemen. Let me still stay with you, Michael. You were trying to sort of continue your story on how you were picked and then, your ordeal. I would appreciate it if you can, do that in, say, 60 seconds.
Well, that would be a very difficult thing for me to do, of course, because we are talking about a journey of about 2 months. And, of course, we cannot really go into the details, the full details here, except
you tortured?
Give us time. Of course, the first time I was tortured is that the fact that you were picked up from your place of comfort to a different place, the torture started from there. Because I could remember I was picked up in the middle of the night when I was even asleep. And from there, I was picked up. I later learned that people who picked me up were members of the NIA. Because by the time I was even picked up, I did not even have an idea of those who picked me up. I could not even say there's a face I can recognize because they were all hooded. I could not even see a face. So it was more like I was being kidnapped. Because that was the implication. Because when you storm someone's house and then you blindfold them, and even yourself, you are verified. There's no face or name to your face. And then you take them to an unknown location. It's a form of kidnapping. It's a form of adoption. So that was the ordeal I had with the men of the NIA who picked me up at the middle of the night and took me to one of their cold rooms in their facility. Before I was then transferred to the police ILT, one of the most notorious police centers even in Nigeria.
Why is it notorious?
Of course, it is called Abattoir. And just today, I must tell you, I was informed that one of the persons, of course, one of the suspects who were with me, he has spent about 5 months in a detention because one of the things I learned there was shocking. Because we had people who are so-called suspects who have been detained for months, some even more than a year. And we have a lawyer here who can even tell us that the police has no right to detain someone without charging them for more than 48 hours or so. So, we have young Nigerians who are rotting away in the police cells there. And one of them today I learned after I spent months at that notorious center, lost his life a few days ago.
While at the center?
No, at the prison. It was, he has been taken to the prison, but because he spends so long a period in that place. I mean, he
Developed
some health complications that when he was taken to prison, he lost his life. And that is the story of many Nigerians in that place. I was there for a month, and I knew people I met there for, who have been there for many months. And this is a place where, sleeping itself is one of the most difficult things for you to do. Because we're talking about in fact, the night you don't even have a place to sleep. You are there about 70 persons in a room. If I need to imagine, in fact, we are talking about a room that is not even enough for 10 persons to breathe comfortably. So that's the horrific situation that many people who are there suffer. Right. And that was also the condition myself and many other persons who were detained at that place suffered during the period of our stay.
But at all of this that you've gone through, I mean, what has this done for your resolve?
Of course, thank you. The first idea why government, in fact, this is not the first time, of course, in the history of Nigeria and even in the history of society, government and people who want to defend the government or who feel they want to defend the government always think that once you incarcerate an activist or even someone who is not an activist, it might serve as deterrent to someone or so. But if you look at our history clearly, we've had thousands of persons who have been arrested over the years. That has not stopped Nigerians from protesting. And one of the people that was being questioned, he said that incited Nigerians. I was like, how can a simple individual incite thousands of people to protest? If Nigerians today protested, it is because they feel they are dissatisfied with things in their society and they want to show their grievance. They want to engage the government on issues that affect them. That is the reason why Nigerians took to the street. And that is the reason, if it's not addressed, Nigerians wanted to take to the street. Even while I was in prison, Nigerians protested. I was not there. So all of this approach of government trying to clamp down on activists, thinking that by doing so, and then Nigerians will try to stay clear of the ropes, and Nigerians will not protest or so, has failed. And to continue to fail. So that the thing we always tell government is that the best way to stop people from protesting is to meet the demands, is to even try and engage them and say, okay, these are the demands you are putting for, okay, these are the demands you can meet in the meantime, these are what we can begin to work on. So that it is that approach that can only make Nigerians stay off the street. But if you continue to repress people, continue to exploit them or oppress them in the way we have been oppressed in Nigeria, you cannot take Nigerians off the street. So that many of us who have been accused of inciting anyone are not guilty of that. Right. So the government is said that has incited Nigerians to take to the street.
All right. Before I bring in Festus, I just want to ask you a final question, Michael. How easy has it been for you to be able to reunite with your family?
Well, I think that has been probably one of the most difficult parts because when I was released on October 3rd, I could remember I had no phone, my phones, laptops, and some things were taken away from me. Even till now, I've not been given any of them. My accounts were freeze, which meant that I was more or less like thrown into the society to go and cater for myself. Either I live or die, they don't really care. So, but of course, it has been one of the most difficult parts of the journey. Of course, you can imagine being out there after spending 2 months in incarceration, then you don't even have a phone, you don't even have a laptop, you can't even use your bank account because the government feel they just want to punish you for no just reason. So that has not been easy on my part, but of course, it's been more than a month and we are still surviving through all of these challenges. So. It's just it.
All right, Michael. We, of course, pray for strength for you. But let me come to you, Festus. This issue also, talking about activists, the freedom of expression and the law, rubbing shoulders. There's also the issue, a trending issue now of Dele Farotimi, who's also a lawyer and human rights activist who, was recently picked up because he wrote a book and has been, in that book, it was said that he defamed a legal icon, in person of Are Afe Babalola. This issue, of course, is generating a bit of storm across sectors. I would like you to speak on this because as we speak, they are even developing stories on this matter.
So, I don't want to delve into the alleged libel in this instance. But let's start from the arrest. Before Mr. Dele Farotimi was arrested, there was no formal invitation to him. There was no communication, official communication, inviting him to Ekiti. What the police authorities did was to invade his law office, assault staff in the office. They didn't stop at that. They ransacked the office by collecting the phone of all the staff, tortured some of the staff, and then went and arrested Mr. Farotimi in a Gestapo manner. They didn't stop at that. They whisked him all the way from Lagos to Ekiti, about some 7 hours. When they got to Ekiti, they barely took his statement. They charged him to court. Now, come to think of it, the morning that he was charged to court was the morning they filed the charge, was the same morning that the charge was assigned to a trial magistrate, and was the same morning that he was arraigned to court. Now, first, the police arrested Mr. Farotimi on that day, or a day before, that was on Tuesday. After the arrest, in the torturous and wrongful arrest, because the mode of arrest was entirely wrongful, clamping down on his whole law firm, torturing people because you want to arrest a citizen is wrongful. Driving him in such a dehumanizing manner, excruciating torture throughout the journey was also wrongful. It violates the right to dignity of a human person guaranteed under Section 34 of the Constitution. Now, they barely took his statement at the police station or at the police headquarters. They charged him to court. That exemplifies the fact that the police already took a stand and they never investigate the matter. If they had investigated the matter, they would have taken their time to interrogate him, get his statement, do proper investigation. But they only brought him and charged him to court. That means that the police already took a stand. But that's not where I'm going. Now, when the matter was charged to court, a magistrate court, Mr. Farotimi pleaded not guilty to the charge. After he pleaded not guilty, typical, or as the procedure requires, his lawyer applied for bail orally. The Lenin magistrate refused the bail application. For some of us, we were left asking questions, because a magistrate court is a court of summary jurisdiction. It's a court that deals with little or no formality. So, if you go to a magistrate court, all your lawyer needs to do is to orally apply to the court that you should be granted bail. Now, even in the event that you do not even have a lawyer, or your lawyer didn't even apply for bail, the magistrate is under a legal obligation to admit any defendant charged with an offense to bail, especially considering the fact that Dele Farotimi's offense was bailable. Now, why was Dele Farotimi not granted bail? The magistrate insisted on a written formal application. And I've been asking myself, I've been asking my colleague, this is strange to me as a legal practitioner. It's strange to me. What we know is that in a magistrate court, even when you don't apply for bail, you are ordinarily meant to be admitted to bail. But in a very debatable circumstances, Dele Farotimi was not granted bail. For us, let me speak for myself. As far as I'm concerned, I am afraid that if people have been saying that there is a likelihood that Dele Farotimi will not be granted fair trial in Ekiti. Now, immediately he was charged to court, his bail was denied for a clear bailable offense that did not initially require a written application. That, to my mind, seemed to align with the fear of those that felt he would not be afforded fair hearing. But that is not all. Now, he was remanded for an offense that he should not be granted bail, even if bail was not applied for. This afternoon, we read the news that another charge, similar charge, has been filed at the Federal High Court. The federal government of Nigeria, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is playing a game. And the name of the game is delay. Now, do you know, Dapo, that by the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day, when Dele Farotimi will return to court, when he is, by the grace of God, granted bail, if he gets charged to the courts at the Federal High Court in Ado-Ekiti and is again arraigned, what will likely happen is that the ruling on the, even if the bail application is taken on that day, there is a likelihood that the ruling will not be taken on that day. And the courts are embarking on vacation. They are embarking on Christmas vacation. The implication is that the game the Nigerian government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is playing is to keep him till 2025. That is what they are trying to do.
I mean, that is really disturbing. But I would like to come in here because recently in a press conference, that Afe Babalola's lawyers, or his legal team, actually did say that they gave a condition to let Mr. Farotimi go. They said that it will be free when he proves the defamatory allegations against the SAN. Permit me to read part of the statement that they said. They said, all facts are verifiable. I urge Nigerians to verify and find out what the truth is first before picking sides. Is it wrong for Are Afe Babalola to seek justice for these false utterances against him? Should justice only be available to Mr. Dele Farotimi because Are Afe Babalola is a global icon? Once Mr. Dele Farotimi can show proof that his assertions in the book are true, then he will be free.
Section 36, subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution is very clear that a person accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. It is not for Dele Farotimi in the present charge. It is not for Dele Farotimi to prove that those allegations are false. The burden is on the complainant, which is the Inspector General of Police, to prove that those publications are false. So I would say that the lawyers have a right under the Constitution to express themselves. It is their opinion. But nobody can play God in this matter.
All right.
What we are saying is that you don't come after you've gone to court through the criminal means to say that Dele Farotimi has to prove that it is true. No, that is not the law. We must not turn the law on its head.
All right.
What the Nigerian government prosecuting Dele Farotimi has to do is to prove that those allegations are not, that the publication in the book, the facts contained in the book are not true. So it is not for Dele Farotimi, it is not the other way around. It is for them to prove. After they discharge that burden of proof, that is when Dele Farotimi, if need be, can enter a defense.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Let me bring in Michael back. Now, Michael, we're talking about bail conditions, which was met. It was 10 million naira each, with some other, what I call these conditions too, or conditionalities attached to it. How were you able, with your team, to, were you able to scale through?
Of course, thank you. I mean, talking about bail, I was granted bail on 11th of September. I mean, it took about 3 weeks to 4 weeks before the bail conditions could be met. And it was deliberate, of course, because for many of us, it was completely shocking to see that people who engage in protest, I mean, have to bring 10 million.
So you had to raise 10 million?
Of course, the legal team, of course, many lawyers who came to the aid of many of us, myself and many of us who were charged, those charged with me and those who were not even charged with me, did a really great work. And of course, the community of activists who stood up to ensure that they were able to meet those conditions, both the monetary part and also the terms of the other conditions, I mean, attached to our bail, to our bail. Of course, we still have many protesters today, because I was just reading today that there are still about 15 or so who were arrested in Sokoto, who the police have refused to release, despite not charging them to court or so. So we are talking about people who have been in police detention for about 4 months or so, which itself, like I said, shows some of the things we've raised both before and even during the protest about the attitude of the Nigerian state to its citizens. Because I cannot imagine how you keep people for about 4 months in the police cell, and you not charge them to court. So the police over the years have been so emboldened to engage in some of these illegal boldly. They do so boldly because I was shocked. During the period we were in jail, there was even an order to even remand us in prison for 60 days. The first time I appeared in court, the prosecuting counsel was saying boldly that we ought to even be sent to prison for a year before we could be granted bail. And Festus here was just talking about Dele Farotimi was denied bail for what? In fact, someone who was for a clearly bailable offense, and then you deny the person bail. So it shows that the judiciary has been dragged into the mud. But the Nigerian client has been used consistently to try to repress.
So from your experience now, would you say you have any confidence in Nigeria's judicial system?
Well, the only confidence I have is in the people of Nigeria and the people who continue to ensure that things are done correctly. And of course, both in my case and also in the case of Dele Farotimi, you see that it's Nigerians who are raising their voice to ensure that, whatever democracy we fought for, of course, what we enjoy today was not given to us on a platter of gold. It was fought for. Many people sacrificed a lot before we could get whatever we call democracy today. So that we must not allow it to be slipped off our hands just like that, in this fashion, in this manner that is being done. And what the state is doing is to gradually take away whatever democratic little democratic benefit we are even enjoying. Because when people protest and then you call them, you accuse them of treason, when someone writes a book and then you have issue with him and then you use criminal means to arrest the person, so it shows the judiciary itself is being used to clamp down for innocent Nigerians. But what I would say, myself and people who were charged with me for treason, we are not in any way guilty of any of the charges levied against us. Because most of the things we said about the country, about things that government needs to do, because it's simple. We are talking about our collective resources being used to address the needs of the people, instead of just the greed of few persons. So that, and many of these things we have mentioned are things that are clearly written in our constitution. So we are only trying to say what has been written in the constitution, which is that the security and welfare of citizens is the responsibility of the government, and they must attend to it. And that was what we said with the government protest. So we were only saying what has been written for many years already that should be done. So we were only making statements out of the constitution, statements that are legal. So there was no reason whatsoever to then put us in chains for saying what was written in the constitution that all of us agreed is governing the land.
All right. We'll go on another break. When we return, of course, we'll be taking the final thoughts of Festus Ogun and Michael Adaramoye. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This, of course, is still Politics HQ on New Central Television. And I still have my guest with me, Michael Adaramoye, the National Coordinator of the Youth Rights Movement, and one of those initially arrested, detained, and released now, as a result of the #EndBadGovernance protest. His life in the studio. Also have Festus Ogun, a legal practitioner. Both gentlemen are joining me here live. They've been with me. Well, before I let you go, gentlemen, Michael, let me come to you. Just while we were on break, you were giving us a bit of detail as to how you were picked up. Apparently you were tracked, the device, using your device and all. That's your phone. My question to you is this. Looking at even the Gestapo style, according to you, the way you were picked up, do you feel safe even now that you are out?
Well, the clear answer is that I don't feel safe. Prior to my arrest, I was arrested not because they made a call to me.
There was no prior invitation.
There was no form of invitation, either in written form or even in time of calling or even a text message or so. So it was just some officers driving to my house at the middle of the night, and they were able to do so by tracking my phone. And for the few hours I was with the men of the NIA, they were even reminding me of calls I made that I've even forgotten I made. People who called me that I've even forgotten they called me or so. They were reminding me of those things. And I think these are extreme and somewhat illegal way of operating. Because you've not invited me in anywhere, and I've not evaded the arrest or anyway. So if you wanted to have me in your custody, you could have invited me to say, okay, Mr. So we have this report about you, so can you come to our station for this? And if I then not attend to your request, then you can then use some of these extreme means. But like I said, the government was just desperate to ensure they clamp down the protests of the people, and that was why they were able to engage in some of extreme and illegal approach to even clamp down activists. And this is the approach for many other persons who were also picked up. I mean, like I said, there were even people who had nothing to do with the protest. People whose only crime was that maybe they shared the video online and then they were tracked down and then picked up for being involved in the protest.
Just before I let you go, 30 seconds. What next?
Well, of course, the struggle for now is to ensure that all those protesters who are still in detention, different centers, like I said, in Sokoto, there are still about few persons who are in Sokoto, and there are even some who are in places we are not even aware of yet. I mean, Nigerians, we need to continue the struggle to ensure we release every member, because this is not just about myself. It's about the democratic right of Nigerians to peacefully assembly. And that's what the government is trying to take away from us.
All right.
And we must not allow that to happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Of course, Festus Ogun, your final comments, particularly on the activist and lawyer, Dele Farotimi. 30 seconds.
I would say that the government must desist from persecuting Dele Farotimi, who, to my mind, a prisoner of conscience and a pro-democracy campaigner. I believe that the deliberate filing of another suit when there is a pending one in the magistrate court, deliberately filing another one at the Federal High Court is an abuse of judicial process. And the end game is to keep him till 2025. Now, I want Nigerians to know that Dele Farotimi's spirit cannot be broken. You cannot use all of this abusing the judicial process to break the spirit of someone that is resolute and is ready to sacrifice all for the liberty of our people. Dele Farotimi should not be behind bars. That's my opinion. I feel that what should have been done is for anyone who feels defamed to file a libel lawsuit in a civil court. And the interesting thing is that in a widely circulated article published by Ariafe Balola, he made the sound argument, which I agreed with, that the circumstances of this case requires, in that article, he wrote that it requires that this matter should be litigated in a civil court. He argued strenuously that there is no reason why state resources should be expended on libel, squabble between two individuals. So I feel that Ariafe Balola will reconsider the position and file a civil claim so that we will not begin to use the instrumentality of the state to settle personal score. And why should the resources of the state, the meager resources of the state, be spent in pursuing personal squabble between two individuals? So while there are criminal laws relating to libel and there are civil laws, I believe that, like it has been done in Lagos State, the time is ripe in our country for us to decriminalize libel. Libel should be a civil matter, and I believe that the time is ripe for Dele Farotimi to be released immediately and unconditionally. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Festus Ogun, legal practitioner, thank you so much for your time on the program. Thank you for having me. And also Michael Adaramoye. Of course, well, I will call you a fighter. It's a prisoner of conscience. Prisoner of conscience. Yes, it's a prisoner of conscience. Permit me to use that word. Thank you so much for your time on the program, and I would say speedy recovery, and reintegration. Once again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
It's great having you. In case you missed out, you might, of course, want to catch up for a repeat broadcast later tonight. You can also catch up on our YouTube platform, that's News Central TV, and watch us there. You can follow us across social media with the same handle. It's on your screen. You can follow me personally at Dakpo, at Digboy.